We identify these big opportunities, these big potential opportunities. We bring them in-house, we build them for growth, and we look to monetize them at the end of the road. That's our business model. And we are business builders. We look at crypto and digital currency in general as another way to broaden our shareholder base.
Right? We're looking for companies which they have to have that 10x upside potential. And in the case of Aditxt, I'm looking at this and I see this again. You're trading at a 5 million market cap, but the assets that you have, which we're going to get into in a second, potentially they're worth 100 million plus in terms of when you can fully monetize. All right, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream, where we bring you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside potential. Companies going after massive multi-billion-dollar market opportunities that are at a key inflection point right now, and with those multiple catalysts in place. And of course, that brings us to ADTX. Amro, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Great to see you again.
Amro, absolutely. Look, ADTX, like all of our stocks that become 10 baggers, and it's something that, we talk about, in the book, in the 10 bagger blueprint, all the case studies, all of them go through the same type of ride we're seeing right now with ADTX. It's a roller coaster, right? The stock doubled, within like in the first day, or up 85%. Then it crashes back 50%. Now it's bouncing back, and it looks like it's ready to absolutely explode. And there's been some incredible news, which I want to get into in this interview. I want to get your insights. But the big news, I think, which the market missed yesterday, is the crypto treasury strategy, the Bitcoin treasury strategy, which I think is a big deal. The press release apparently came out on Business Wire. Yahoo didn't pick it up, because I think if Yahoo would have picked it up, the stock would have gone to maybe $3 or $5, because we're seeing that any time companies announce this Bitcoin strategy, these things are exploding. But the difference, I think, in your case, it actually makes sense for Aditxt. In a lot of cases, I've been very critical of a lot of companies doing this. In your case, actually makes sense. We're going to get into this thing, because I think it's a game changer for Aditxt. But first, we got a lot of new people watching. So, Amro, for those new to the story, can you tell us about the Aditxt business model and the kind of the growth drivers right now?
Yeah. So, Jack, thanks again for having me. I mean, I truly enjoy having these calls, because look, as a public company, we want to make sure that we engage with our stakeholders. We want them to understand what Aditxt is all about. And to summarize our business model, we are publicly owned innovation accelerator. If you understand that about Aditxt, you're pretty much going to understand kind of the strategies we're taking to achieve this vision. Publicly owned innovation accelerator. And
or as I call you, a unicorn farm. I look at this as a unicorn farm. You're growing these little unicorns, which are, then you monetize them. But I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's perfectly fine. I mean, look, when we're talking about innovation accelerator, we identify these big opportunities, these big potential opportunities. We bring them in-house, we build them for growth, and we look to monetize them at the end of the road. That's our business model. And we are business builders. We're not transactional. We identify these opportunities to bring them in-house and build the business hands-on, and begin to capitalize and monetize these opportunities in one form or another, which we can get into. But that's who we are as a business. If you want to talk about crypto, look, I mean, there is no secret that a lot of public companies have been, picking up crypto, for one reason or another. I mean, some companies became a crypto company, by reverse merging into other crypto companies. Some basically became crypto holding companies. That's not who we are. When you look at publicly owned company and combined with innovation acceleration, the public ownership side of it is, we look at crypto and digital currency in general as another way to broaden our shareholder base, right? It is here to stay, I believe, just like many of the transforming technologies that we've seen in the past. and it is a way for us to broaden our shareholder base, and with a goal and hope that it will begin to align our enterprise value with our potential value, right? Which is a macro issue in the market right now. With everything we're doing, we're still at $4 or $5 million market cap. We're hoping that it will begin, at least it becomes a tool to align our enterprise value with our potential value. So that's how we view crypto.
Yeah.
I forgot to turn off my mic, so I can turn it off.
Okay. And again, talk about enterprise value, right? So look, anytime we bring a company onto our next super stock platform, we have a strict list of criteria, right? We're looking for companies which they have to have that 10x upside potential. And in the case of Aditxt, I'm looking at this and I see this again. You're trading at a 5 million market cap, but the assets that you have, which we're going to get into in a second, potentially they're worth 100 million plus in terms of when you can fully monetize them, which means that delta is about 20x. So this stock potentially could be worth, $25 a share. Now we have to discount, obviously, we get a discount, for everything, but we see a path to a 10x from here. We'll talk about, kind of your growth initiatives. We'll talk about, again, it was a Santa, you have Adammune, you got Evofem, the acquisition you're going to be making. I mean, and we can just mention this. So Evofem, the company that you're in the process of acquiring, women's health, they're doing 20 million in revenues. And again, they've had some issues because of previous toxic financings. It's kind of an oddball situation, but I think once you have it under the umbrella of Aditxt and we kind of clean up the balance sheet and all that, this thing should be worth, again, within the Aditxt umbrella, 5x revenues, which I think is conservative, which means 100 million plus valuation. And that's just one of your baby unicorns. This is like, again, so you got the Evofem baby unicorn number one. You got Pure Santa, and we should talk about this. Now, this Pure Santa, I think you mentioned earlier, you were talking to some bankers about doing an IPO. This is the cancer detection company, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, especially for those who haven't really heard me before, we obviously do not get in the business of, forecasting a share price, right? It is always going to be a function of markets. But I would truly like to discuss the opportunity and the potential of each company, Jack. And then, shareholders, investors can make up their mind based on the available information, based on the opportunity, right? Look, speaking of unicorns, I mean, if you want to call it Adicorn, each one, right? So let's begin with Persanta. And it is important to share with your audience and our shareholders, what is the value of Persanta? I mean, look, we completed the asset acquisition of flow cytometry, Mitomic platform, Aditxt platform, and ultimately look at Persanta as a value. What is the value for Persanta in terms of what is the value for humanity? Let's begin with cancer, as far as early detection of cancer. We don't need slides, we don't need market data for us to realize what a deadly disease it is, what a major issue for humanity when it comes to cancer. And I think we would agree that early detection and timely detection of cancer is beyond valuable, right? To say valuable is an understatement. So what we're doing with Persanta is we're using mitochondrial DNA to early detect cancer, which, as we all agree, early detection of cancer is key. So that's number one. And we're currently going through the validation process in our CLIA-CAP facility, which is Persanta's facility out of Richmond, Virginia, with a goal to go commercial potentially by end of this year, but likely by Q1 of 2026. This, in a matter of 6 months. So assuming we finish the validation and we begin commercially offering cancer detection, starting with prostate cancer and endometriosis, which is obviously not cancer, but that is for women's health. These are the two tests that we would go out in Q1 of 2026, just in a few months.
But this is happening now. This is the path to commercialization is like within 6 months, basically.
So 2026, and you'll hear me say this over and over again. Look, we've been building Aditxt as a model for acquiring, building, capitalizing these opportunities, right? 2026, we're focused on proving the business model by achieving these capitalization events and monetization events. And I'll have to say, Jack, as you know, as a public company, we can't guarantee it. You gotta read all the disclaimers. It is what it is, but we are moving quickly towards commercialization of the first test, which is prostate cancer and endometriosis, and that would be commercial validation of our business model.
Actually, Amber, so actually you have a couple of major catalysts in place. So your business model, right? The business model is this innovation accelerator. Or real, I mean, it's almost like, again, for investors who may not be familiar with, you're almost like a venture capital firm, except you're hands-on in developing these businesses and you own them outright. That's basically what it is, right?
And we're publicly owned.
Right. So any investor buys a stock, you got multiple shots on goal. So basically, anybody buying ADTX, they got multiple shots on goal. You have 1, 2, you have 3+ of these initiatives right now. You're probably going to be adding more opportunities. But you have actually 2 that are near term, which is obviously Evofem closing that acquisition, which could happen in September, I think, or September timeline, more or less.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're a month away, and that's a big deal because I think the reason the stock is trading at $1, the reason you're trading at $5 million right now is nobody knows. I mean, people are they're confused, they don't get it, whatever. But once they see it, because once they actually see this thing happening, then it's real. Because up till now, it's been it's been talk and this, and it takes a while for investors to. They're not going to believe it until they actually see it. A lot of times, right? So the company, every company has its own journey and things are different in every case. I think in the case of Aditxt, it's maybe it got a little bit ahead of itself when it came out it was the market situation or whatever. But right now, investors getting into this right now, they're coming into this. I'm calling it, it's what we call it, it's an asymmetric bet, right? You're paying $5 million for this company. The whole company's market cap is $5 million, and you have, again, this multiple shots on goal. Each of these are worth potentially $100 million plus, right? So Evofem, that when you close that deal in September, I think that's going to be a major catalyst by itself, because that's going to, people are going to say, oh, this thing is for real. Oh, wow. There's going to be this aha moment, and all. But by then the stock might already be $5. Because we're already moving up here. And then on top of that, then you're going to have the Perisanta. Let's say you have commercialization and potentially again. I think that there's been talk about you've been dealing with investment bankers for potentially an IPO or a spin out. So again, let's say there's an IPO. Which means you're going to offer. I don't know what the number is, but maybe 30% of the shares go to the public. But that means when that stock starts going up, that's going to drive the value of Aditxt up, because you're going to still own, I'm assuming, the majority of the shares if and when that happens. Again, nothing is guaranteed, but that's kind of the idea. And the idea is to have maybe, Amber, I don't know if am I putting words in your mouth? Is the idea to have multiple IPOs out there at some point?
So the idea is to monetize each asset at the right time, whether it's an IPO, whether it's an acquisition, co-development, licensing deal, which would probably be more applicable to Adimune, which we certainly should talk about. So, Jack, to kind of summarize the assets right now, we have Perisanta, which we just discussed, which is the early cancer and disease detection. We're looking to, our subsidiary is called Adifem, to close the acquisition of Evofem by end of September. Again, we got to make sure that we have the right financing and everything has to come into place to close this transaction. So now we would have Adifem as a third subsidiary, followed by Adimune, which I'd love to spend a couple minutes talking about Adimune, because Adimune is certainly brings a lot of bigness, if you will. With Adimune is an IP that we acquired, licensed exclusively worldwide a few years ago. And it's the whole concept of how do you address autoimmunity without suppressing the immune system. So those of us that are listening to us right now or listening to us later on, if they deal with autoimmunity directly or indirectly, they understand what it means to actually be on medications for addressing autoimmunity. This platform, which is still preclinical, is designed to retrain our own immune system to recognize our own tissues so it doesn't attack it. And we've advanced the platform, preclinical studies, manufacturing, and many aspects that are required to even get that close to filing for human trials, potentially in Q4 of this year. And our goal is to begin human trials, of course, as capital allows us and regulatory approvals, to begin human trials first half of 2026. That would be a major achievement for Adimmune to take a platform from literally an IP and bunch of clinical data all the way to human trials. So we're planning to file potentially Q4 of this year or Q1 of next year. And assuming we get approval, we begin human trials in stiff person syndrome, which is a central nervous system disease here in the US, and type 1 diabetes and psoriasis in Germany and Europe. So Adimmune is the second company that we currently own, with Evofem being a pending acquisition. So these are the 2 + 1.
Okay. No, I mean, listen, the model that you have, I mean, the business model and the opportunity, I think is great. We talked about it, I think, last time. Is, there's a couple of companies that have done this model. I mean, right now you have Interactive Corp, IAC is the symbol that's in the media and .com space. I mean, and again, that was Barry Diller. Again, it's very similar to your model, which is acquire, ABC, acquire, build up, and then monetize. And they start off with, I think they had Expedia, Match.com, Angie's, a bunch of spinouts they've done. I think they've created. The company is multi-billion value. The stock has gone up probably about 300x, meaning, if you put $1 into it, you got $300 over a period of years. You've had a Safeguard Scientific. I don't know if those guys, but there's been a bunch of companies. Every companies I've seen with your model, this model that you're executing right now has been phenomenally successful for investors, and it's created massive shareholder value. The key is, again, what the market is waiting for is that signal that, okay, this thing is real, right? Because they've been hearing the story, but once they see that first event, the first, monetization, or the first kind of, capitalization, however you want to call it, then they're going to see that as, okay, this is real, and there's other multiple shots on goal, and then you're going to get that full valuation. I think that's the path for how this thing could become a $10, $15, $25 stock. So the first one is closing the Evofem deal. Then if you can maybe do an IPO for what is it, Persanta, which I don't think. I think even when you just announce any announcement regarding, I think that'll be enough. But so you have multiple near-term events, and of course you're building up Adimmune. You have other opportunities. I think you probably have in the pipeline. You're obviously always. Are you? I think you're looking at other opportunities, right? Other potential acquisitions.
We do. Yeah, we do. And look, the market will evaluate a couple of things, especially in a market like this. A few years ago, if you had a PowerPoint presentation, you probably could be valued at $1 billion, and we all know that those situations. But reality is, for us, we're going to have to show how real and how big. Those are the questions that we need to have answers to. How real? When you look at Adimmune, when you look at Persanta, when you look at the journey that we've been with Evofem and what we've done, look, we do have the foundation for our business model to be executed upon. That's it. We do have the foundation, and we now have to, like you said, we have to deliver, and we have to show how the business model could work. And we're focused in 2026 to really begin to show what the capitalization strategy could look like. Starting with Persanta, and of course the closing of Evofem is key for us to really launch Adifem, which will be focused on women's health. So that's an important piece here, Jack. Evofem is an anchor acquisition for Adifem. Adifem is going to be focused on women's health, starting with Evofem as an anchor acquisition, and which brings the assets as well as a team that understands the market extremely well.
Yeah. Look, I think it's an incredible opportunity. Right now, it's like really ground floor, right? The stock is cheap, 5 million valuation. Stock is $1, and the opportunity is because nobody really understands it yet, nobody believes it yet. But when you have that first deal, all of a sudden everything takes off. So, as I always say, with these stocks, if you want to, find stocks that become, 10 baggers, 100 baggers or more. You got to buy them. I always say this: buy ugly, sell pretty. You got to buy them. When things look at the uglies, when it's very confusing, because that's why the opportunity is there. Once already, people start to see. Once it comes into focus, once people understand where this is going, they see the reality. The stock is $10 already. And by the way, it could be another great opportunity to get in, because by then you're going to have momentum. You'll be on your way to maybe $100. Or 300, just like IAC, just like Safeguard, just like other companies that have done this model that you're doing right now, the journey you're on with this. I want to bring up, let's go back to the crypto strategy, because I think the news came out and the press release. I think there's two things, and I think here's the opportunity for investors. First of all, most people did not see it. Okay, that's number one. And number two, also it mentioned that. You have a registration statement, and potentially the company could raise potentially up to $100 million or something.
That's the upper limit. That's basically the upper limit.
Right. And what happens? Right. So what happens is, I think anytime investors see that, they always in this market, a lot of them have seen, oh my God, there's going to be dilution. They're going to raise shares at a penny. We've seen that happen. By the way, we've seen that type of situation happen with stocks. It's not happening with Aditxt, and the proof of that is if you've had that opportunity already, and you've had multiple opportunities to do dilutive financing, which you haven't done. So this,
Jack, maybe it's even worth clarifying. This equity line actually has been shareholder approved. I think a year ago. I mean. Yeah. We simply did an S1 to is after we filed our case. So the equity line has been around. I mean, we've had it. We just mentioned it in the press release because we filed an S1 and we thought we would mention it as a working capital facility for us, because we can't achieve our milestones without working capital. But no, that's the upper limit, and it's been around for a year. That same equity line.
Well, I think the reality is that if you're gonna do any financing, it's going to be at higher prices, right? In other words, you're not going to be raising 50. First of all, you wouldn't be able to do 50 million shares right at these levels, and what if you did? It would be at much higher prices, and essentially gives you flexibility. That's what it is. It's just a tool which gives you flexibility. So I mean, if the stock ran to $20 a share, would you sell 50 million shares? I don't know, 10 million shares, maybe, but it's not happening at these levels. So people, I think when they saw that, they kind of panicked, and that's why the stock really went crazy yesterday. First, they saw the crypto treasury strategy. They liked that. The stock went to $1.50, it exploded, and then all of a sudden they looked at the button and said, "Oh, the equity line," and they sold off. So the reality though is,
having these facilities again, we didn't go out and raise $125 million yesterday. We did not, right? So having these facilities are really important to provide a micro-cap company the tools to be able to at least meet and begin to meet some of our existing obligations. Look, you cannot do this without any fuel, right? But are we going to go out and raise 125, or did we go out? No, we didn't. Obviously, that is the upper limit, and it is good for a company to have these tools. And of course, management has to, to use it the right way. And I know that's subjective, Jack, but we did not go out and raise 125. It is the upper limit.
I think the idea is, look, and the proof of it is this. You're on this program, and here's what I find: the companies that come onto the Wall Street Reporter platform, why do the stocks do well, right? Multiple reasons. Yeah. So one of the things we look for is obviously, the business model. Multiple shots on goal. We got to get in the cheap valuation. Very important. We got to get in dirt cheap. 5 million valuation for Aditxt is dirt cheap. But most importantly is, which we haven't mentioned, is the CEO quality, right? And again, I talk about this, in the book, in my book, 10 bagger blueprint. The CEO quality is super important. And again, I'm not here to blow don't get full of yourself, but you happen to be a high quality CEO. The proof of that is most CEOs out there, they don't know how to maximize shareholder value. If they did, they're not willing to do it. They don't understand the value. The fact that you're here engaging with investors, it shows that the company values transparency. It respects the shareholders, which is very important. Again, very important for the company. Companies, a lot of companies, they have no respect for their shareholders. You never hear from them. They don't put out press releases. They don't do anything, and the stocks stagnate. Here, you're engaging with shareholders, and if anybody has questions, I'm sure you'll answer them. Right? We're gonna open up for questions in a few minutes. We're here to create shareholder value. So so the companies that come on our platform, they do well for a reason. CEO quality, and again, I don't think you're going to be. Obviously, you're not raising. You're not selling 50 million shares at these levels. It's just, first of all, it would be impossible to do it right here, and also you're not doing it. So at much higher prices, yeah, for sure, you might sell a couple of shares here and there when the stock gets to, I don't know, $3, $5, $10 or whatever, in a prudent way, which is I think the smart thing to do, but it's not happening here. So we'll clear that up. Let's talk about the crypto strategy. Now, you're working with, I think it's H.C. Wainwright, right? That's your banker.
That's our banker, yes.
Okay. So H.C. Wainwright is extremely active in the crypto space, right? They work with everybody, the who's who, with MicroStrategy, with Michael Saylor, with what is it, Hive, all those companies, all the miners, everybody. They know everybody in the space. They came to you. So H.C. Wainwright came to you with this concept, and so how would this work exactly? How would this?
Yeah, and Jack, our decision really when it comes to digital currency. Look, we've been working with H.C. Wainwright for I think almost a couple of years, and we enjoy a great relationship with the team over there. The digital strategy is something that we drove as a business, and again, I don't want to necessarily imply anything, as far as what H.C. Wainwright is doing with us and for us. But from our point of view, when you're looking at publicly owned company, it is a company owned by the public, and we are advancing innovations for the public. We have to also be innovative when it comes to capital markets. You cannot ignore digital currencies. Digital currencies are here to stay. And what is digital currency? You can talk about Ethereum, you can talk about Bitcoin, you can talk about XR, you can talk about all kinds of stuff. But ultimately, digital currency is nothing but a way to exchange and store value. That's it. Just like a dollar, just like any currency, it is digital. And in order for us to truly continue to advance our mandate of this public ownership, we also have to open it up to a new class of shareholders when it comes to digital currencies. Now, we have not done anything, just to be 100% clear with the press release, we have not bought any crypto, but I wanted to make sure that we put it out in the public domain as far as our strategy, that we are thinking about it. We're looking at digital currency, and here is how it fits in our business model. We're not just picking it up because it's the latest and greatest buzzword that people are talking about. It is something in our DNA, if you will, where we want to make sure that at the right time, when it makes sense, we will implement such strategy. We're board approval and all the things, but I wanted to make sure that we outline how we view digital currencies and how it fits in our business model. And frankly, for a company like Aditxt, it is a perfect fit for us, because whether you're raising capital with digital currencies, whether you're holding cash or digital currency, our goal is to make sure that we're ready to receive, we're ready to transact when the time is right, and we also want to make sure our enterprise value reflects the potential value that we believe Aditxt has. So that's where we're coming at it when it comes to digital currency. And it was important for us to put it out there because, as you can imagine, we get approached especially in the last couple of months. And I wanted to show that our intention is not to become a crypto company. Our intention is not to become a crypto holding company, right?
Okay.
It is a business model, but we want to strengthen our public ownership side of the equation.
So I think the idea, it would be, let's say, for example, you would be open to taking in Bitcoin, for example, in exchange for shares. So instead of raising money in dollars, right? Instead of raising a couple $1 million, if somebody came to when the stock is, let's say, moving higher, let's say the stock is $5, and they say, okay, look, we want to put in I don't know, a couple $1 million in Bitcoin, etc. You take in Bitcoin in exchange for shares. Is that correct?
Potentially correct. Or some investors out there that are actually investing cash with a mandate of the company adopting a digital strategy, digital currency strategy. So we wanted to show that, look, we thought about it and we articulated how it fits in Aditxt business model.
Yeah, and actually, here's the thing. It makes a lot of sense. It's actually on brand for what you're doing because, from day one, you're essentially an innovator. You're the innovation accelerator, right? It's the innovation accelerator, and there's nothing more, innovative in the last, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years than digital currencies, than cryptocurrencies, right? So it's on brand. It's not like you're in the diesel engine manufacturing business, and all of a sudden you say, hey, we're going to do a Bitcoin strategy. No, it's actually part of what you're doing. It's perfect sense. Look, you're a health tech innovations company in the heart of Silicon Valley. If you did not have a crypto strategy, it would be odd almost. I mean, it's almost like you have to have it. Right? I
agree. Yeah, we needed to communicate what it means, what it could mean for our business, and look, it is actually pretty exciting time. I mean, when you look at the conversions of digital currency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, other digital currencies, and biotech. I mean, look, we can agree that commercializing biotech innovations is a challenging task, right? It's not, you can't sit in your garage and code, like what you do with software. You can't just develop a new molecule and go around the neighborhood and begin injecting your neighbor. You can't do that. Biotech is a very challenging, long process, and it comes with its own risks. Converging, financial technologies, fintech with biotech, converging a public company infrastructure, governance, transparencies, liquidity, right, with biotech is what we're all about. So that's why I combined at the very beginning. It is publicly owned innovation accelerator, right? And the public ownership key is another area that we must be innovative. It's not just, we can't just ignore what's happening in the digital currency and crypto world. And that's why it fits in our business model, Jack. And I really do appreciate the opportunity that you're giving us to talk about digital currency, because I think there is a lot going on. And the convergence with biotech and fintech is going to be a very exciting opportunity in the future, I believe.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense. And we've seen a bunch of stocks explode based on this thing. It was SBET. It was a few weeks ago. The stock ran from I think $4 to $200, in a couple of days, or something crazy. Basically, look, I think the idea of the digital strategy of yesterday's press release is to let the market know that, again, the company is, you're an innovator, and you're just expanding your potential, tools that you can use to, finance, these baby unicorn, this unicorn farm, basically, right? Because again, all these things require capital. Obviously, your job is to, create shareholder value, right? That's the whole point of Aditxt. I mean, Aditxt essentially is, it's a venture capital company almost, right? Or private equity, whatever you want to call it, but it's some sort of combination of the two. But the idea is to take $1 and turn it into $10. That's your job, is to allocate capital into these different opportunities to prudently raise capital and to get more when you cash these things in. So no, makes perfect sense. Emma, what is so we have that the crypto news. What's next? What other opportunities are you working on right now? Are you looking at any other potential assets you're looking to pick up in the health area?
The quick answer is yes, Jack. I mean, we're always getting approached by whether it's a private company that's truly looking to grow, and we make it very clear we're not a fund. We're not a fund. We're publicly owned innovation accelerator, and by that I mean we're hands-on. Our business, we're hands-on. So we have private companies that are looking to grow. I mean, they've been around, they've done well, but they really don't have that that growth engine and growth vision. You have companies that could potentially be part of venture capital or a fund, and it just needs to go to that next level. You have assets all around us. I mean, in universities. Now, we really tend to focus more on companies that are focused on, that we're looking at companies that are focused on health with potential growth, and we can supplement them with innovative assets, similar to what we're doing with Versanta and what we did with Versanta. So the answer is yes, and the opportunities, the pipeline is there. But again, we have to focus on showing success. We have to. I mean, that's something that I'm focused on with the team to show that where Versanta can hopefully execute on its IPO, close the acquisition of Evofem, and enter human trials with Aditxt as early as first half of 2026.
So there's really, okay, so I think the bottom line for investors is you have right now, again, the way I look at it is, okay, market cap is $5 million, and there's multiple shots on goal. Each of these could potentially make Aditxt worth 100 million plus. All right, I mean, potentially you got between Evofem, between Versanta, etc. Each of these, so you have multiple shots for Aditxt to increase 20x. I know it sounds crazy, but now it may be, maybe only increases 5x, whatever the number is. But I see there's a path for this to be really potentially a $15 plus stock in the next within the next 6 months. I know a lot of people in the audience, they have very short attention spans. They can't wait more than 3 minutes. An afternoon might be too long for them, so they may not be able to hold on till the stock gets to 15. They can only hold on for 2 days maximum. But yeah, the goal is we're looking for opportunities where a stock could be a 10 bag or more, or actually or more. I mean, again, 10x to 100x. And again, long term, if you execute, if you show some traction, because I think that's the thing. The market right now, if you can show traction, you show validation, proof of concept, if you will, I guess that would be proof of concept. If these deals start working, the stock starts moving, and then it becomes a snowball, and you do more deals. You just rinse, wash, and repeat. And just like IAC, that thing went from 25 cents to $200, right? It was a 25-cent stock at one point. It went to, I think, over $200. I mean, with splits. Same concept, different, in the different industry, but same basic idea. Safeguards, same thing. I mean, so the path you're on has produced billions of dollars in shareholder wealth. It just comes down to execution. We're seeing it right now, and essentially the investors who are patient and who are willing to see these catalysts come to fruition, like the acquisition of Evofem and all that, I think they'll be rewarded. Again, they have to just make a decision, a risk reward decision. Does it make sense or not? That's all. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to be looking at Aditxt right here. Okay, so you're looking at other acquisitions, other deals. What other news can we expect to hear from Aditxt in the next couple of weeks, next 30 days?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really signal any, but look, my goal here, Jack, I mean, is to truly communicate our progress, and frankly, communicate the things that don't go well too. I mean, look, if we are going to be if we're going to be publicly owned company, I truly believe that you tell your shareholders and stakeholders what's going right and what's not going right. But that said, we want to communicate. We want to be on your show. We want to communicate through press releases. We want to communicate with other channels as far as what's happening with Persanta, the progress of Persanta. We announced, and I'm trying to remember when, we announced endometriosis IRB approval for Persanta to begin validation of the endometriosis. And without getting into it right now, please, in your audience, look up endometriosis and see what a big challenge that is for women. Right now, we're pushing towards validation and clinical studies with actual, with people basically. We're obviously advancing, and we're working towards the audit that's necessary for Persanta independently from Aditxt. We're working on drafting, the documents that are necessary. And look, when the time is right, we'll push for the IPO full speed ahead for Persanta. So it's a journey, it's a process, and we want to communicate the progress one way or another. Obviously, when it's meaningful. Evofem acquisition is, we're less than 90 days away. We still have a senior creditor we have to address. We still have working capital. But Evofem, I'll tell you, I give them credit. Evofem with two FDA products, Solosec, as well as Fixie, FDA approved, and they have been moving. Last year, they reported 20 million, and they keep moving forward. So there's a lot going on. We're not a single technology company where things don't happen often. We have a lot going on, and we want to, whenever it makes sense, we want to make sure that we communicate that with our stakeholders.
Okay, excellent. So look, bottom line is, cheap valuation right now, $5 million valuation, multiple shots on goal for this thing to be a 10-bagger. And these things are near term. It's not 5 years out. It's like literally, 60. These events, these events are, 30 days out to 90 days out. This is all near term stuff. So it'll be very exciting to keep an eye on the stock. Amor, thank you again, and we'll catch up with you during when you have the next news release. Thank you again.
I appreciate it, Jack. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you again, guys.
Thanks, Jack.